Title of this course, would you like to build a snowman? Snow in halacha. Rabbi Joshua Flug put this together from YU. Again, most things come, there's a lot of good stuff from the YU website, or YU affiliates, and this is one of them. So, since we are living in a snow-ridden area, it's always nice to know what's going on with the snow. So the first thing that we're going to look at is what's the halachic status of snow. Now, I want you to think about this before we even get into this. Who would have ever thought that Jewish law would think about snow? That's the first thing you have to understand. I mean, think about it. We play in the snow, you build snowman, you just said that somebody said it's idolatry from the Muslim world to build a snowman, fine. But whoever would think in their wildest dreams that halacha, Jewish law, will come down with mandates on the status of snow. And yet, it just shows you that halacha really is all-encompassing, and that we really have to appreciate that the Torah, that nothing is outside the realm of halacha. So now we're going to get into some interesting questions. One, what's the halachic status of snow? So normally we say that solid foods are categorized as ochlin, foods, and liquid foods are categorized as mashkin, which would be liquid foods. So snow and other frozen items are unique and that they turn into liquid, right? When I have ice, it's going to, if I take it out and I put it in my cup, sooner or later it'll turn into water. So is it a solid? Is it ochel? Or is it liquid? Is it mashkin? So the Breita states that snow is not considered either a solid food nor a liquid food. However, if one designates it as a drink, then it would have the ability to be matame tumat mashkin, that I could make something impure when it touches the snow. So in other words, normally if I had water or wine or honey or anything like that, so that would be the transferring property from tuma to tahara, from spiritual impurity to spiritual purity. Yeah.
If I put snow in my mouth, do I have to say a bracha? Shachol?
We'll get into that. Good. Leonardo, we'll get into that.
He's young and hungry. We don't have.
It's good. It's good. Snowballs, like my mic. Okay, but that's one of the things. So it's like in any. By the way, the transferring agent. That's what the word is. The transferring agent is very important. For if I don't, let's say I put down, I have my my meat pot here. And so a hot meat pot, and I put it down on a dry counter, stainless steel counter, or whatever counter is going to be. There's nothing in between. There's no water in between. Does that make the counter treif or milchik or fleishik? Would it do anything? Would it affect anything? The answer is no, because there's no liquid there. The liquid is what makes it the movement.
You put what on the table?
In other words, if I would take my fleishik pot,
your pot,
a hot pot, and I put it on my my counter or whatever it's going to be. So that doesn't make that heat to cold doesn't make a transfer. Only if there's a water or some other substance there, a transferring agent, a conductor.
So he splashed it.
Oh, then you messed up. Right. But if there's no conductor, it doesn't work. So really, that's what we're going to call this. If snow is a liquid, it's the conductor that causes tuma, spiritual impurity, to transfer to something that wasn't spiritually impure. That's number one. Now, but that's not true. If it's not considered a liquid, then it doesn't have that ability. Okay? So now there are two reasons he explains why designation as a drink is effective and designation as food is not. Rashi explains that the properties of snow are more similar to drinks and to food, because what happens with snow? It melts. The Tosefta has similar discussions about other items that can be classified as food or drinks. such as congealed blood or honey, and implies that the issue is of what's considered normal. So if one can apply the same logic to snow and suggest that it's normal to consider a drink, but not normal to consider it a food. Most people don't run and eat snow except for Daniel. Okay, Daniel wants to eat snow. And actually, I know all the kids like to eat snow, but for the most part, we don't pick up snow except to throw it at people or to shovel it out of our way. And certainly, if it's yellow snow, we were all taught you should not eat yellow snow. Okay. Say again? Brown snow, certainly not. Right? Anything but white. Okay. So now, let's go to one step further. This discussion becomes relevant to whether ice cream or ices are considered a food or a drink. What's ice cream considered? Food. Okay. So, by the way, what bracha would you say on ice cream?
Shekel.
Correct. Good. So the number, so one, when it comes to the bracha acharona on food, when we want to make an after bracha on food, we have to eat a certain amount. In other words, you have in front of us a veritable feast of pizza, what's it called? Chips, potato, French fries, and drinks. We have everything in front of us. If I would just take one chip, one potato chip, I take one potato chip like this, I make a berei pri ha'adama. Do I have to make an after bracha?
No.
No. Why not?
It's a chip.
It's because it's not enough. I didn't have enough. I have to have a certain measure of these in order to make an after bracha.
Potato chip is Adam, huh?
Yes, because it comes from the ground. It's potato.
Are you sure about that?
Yeah, no, it's a real potato chip.
Okay.
It's not Pringles. Pringles are, I heard they're not, they're crushed up and all that.
What do you think this is? Do you think that's from a potato?
No, that's a potato.
Come on.
No, it's Lay's potatoes.
There's probably a quarter of a potato.
No, let's assume they're potatoes. Okay? Or even, no matter what, even if I take one French fry, it's clearly a potato. One French fry doesn't make it. I have to have a certain amount of food. So that amount is called kezayed tol kadei achila pras. It's the amount of an olive size of food eaten within the amount of time it would normally take me to eat a piece of bread. Let's say 4 minutes for argument's sake. So if I'm going to eat that much food within 4 minutes, then I have to make an after bracha. If not, not. That's when it comes to food. When it comes to a drink, the minimum amount I have to drink is about 2 or 3 ounces in the amount of time that it normally would take to drink 2 or 3 ounces. So how long does it take to drink a glass of, this 5 ounces, I believe. How long would it take to drink this much? What, 2 seconds, 3 seconds?
Depends if it's hot.
No, cold.
Oh, cold.
Cold. How long would it take? It wouldn't take long. So if I nurse the drink, everybody says the expression nurse, I take my time drinking it. Okay? If I'm going to drink, let's say I filled it up 2 or 3 ounces, whatever, 3 ounces. Let's be machmer. 4 ounces. Let's go for the whole cup. Who cares? If I drink this whole cup, this takes me an hour to drink, because I keep sipping. Then I don't make an after bracha. When it comes to coffee or tea, people say you should not make a bracha after that. You don't make a bracha acharona. Why? Because I didn't have enough at one time, within the amount of time it would normally take.
And that period is how much? 3-4 minutes?
No. I said to drink this would take about 5 seconds.
Something hot.
Something hot. Same thing. No, it goes by cold. Goes by cold.
Wow.
So that's why many people will not make a bracha after drinking coffee. They have to make it before. You have to take a shea shakol, but you don't say the brain of fashut after that. According to many opinions, you don't, because you're not drinking it fast enough. And for that person, by the way, because I remember my father, let him rest in peace. Well, he was on coffee break. When you're on coffee break in a factory, you don't have time. So he learned how to gulp coffee. Still and all, so since he learned how to do that, does he make an after bracha on that or not? And the answer is no. Because even though that he can do it, the normal guy out there cannot. The normal guy has to nurse a drink. So as a result, we don't go by the individual who's learned to burn his throat. You learn by the regular practice. Okay, so that's the two things that go on. If we think it's food, so we have a certain amount of time to eat the snow and make a bracha on it afterwards. So for Daniel, who likes to eat snow, he would say, to answer your question, shehakol. I'll make shehakol. But the question is, do I make a brain of fashon afterward? So I have to know how much snow would make the amount of an olive size. And since snow is very fluffy, think about that. You'd really have to compress it to find out how much it would be. So you have to have a real measure of snow, just like when it comes to matzah on Pesach. When I have to eat matzah on Pesach, so you have this, what's it called, the hand-baked matzah. And we tell everybody, you have to have 3/4 apiece within 5 minutes, or whatever we give the time, 9 minutes, whatever it is. Okay? And people are looking and saying, that's a kazayas to you? That's an olive size? What kind of olives did you have? It's gigantic. And the answer is that if you crush it down, they would argue, and make it into pulverized stuff, that would equal approximately that amount, or an egg.
For challah?
Yes. They're all the same.
Squish it down.
If you squish it down, right? If any type of food I'm having, I have to have that much. Now the odds are when you're having bread, during the week, or cake, or anything else, that you have it. Interesting enough, though, if I have one Oreo, who can have one Oreo? But let's assume you have one Oreo.
Time Oreo is lard. Couldn't eat them.
And now they're kosher.
Now
it's
Hydrox.
OUD. Well,
Yeah, you had to have Hydrox back.
Okay.
When I was your age, so.
Right, I don't remember Hydrox. Okay, but if you have that, everything's kosher today. Chips Ahoy. If I only have one of them, I don't make an after bracha. It's not big enough. I have to have 2 or 3. So if you look on all these things, if you really want to know basically the kazayat, I was told that if you look at the serving portion, that's basically what it comes to a kazayat on most of these things. So if you have a cracker, you have to look, it's like 7 or 8 crackers. It's a good rule of thumb to follow. Because if you're going to, let's say, take 3 cookies from the little Melaleuca cookies that we have in the Torah Center, that's the sales from Melaleuca, if who's ever watching this, okay? For those little things, you don't make an after bracha on one. And I was once sitting down at lunch with one of my co-teachers, and this guy was a very ehrlich guy, very, straight by the book. And I saw that he had some stuff, but he didn't bench. I said to him, why don't you make an after bracha? What's wrong with the bracha acharon? He said, I don't think I had enough. Here was a guy who you would think that would have run every single 2 seconds to do it. And I learned an important lesson there, that sometimes always following the halacha means following the halacha. When in doubt, when it comes to a bracha, when in doubt, you don't say it. Safek bracha lahakil. If I'm not sure I had enough, then I have to go lenient and I don't say it. Either that or I have enough. So that's why when I have cookies, I always make sure that I have enough cookies and take the bracha. That's why I have to work out so much. Okay.
How do we understand the size of a kazayas today?
Again, they do actually give measures to this. So I have a book. I don't know. The answer to your question is, I don't know offhand. I know what revius is, approximately 3 to 4 ounces.
I mean, because what I've heard, for solid food, what I've heard for a long time is that a kazayas, which means like an olive, is really like a medium-sized chicken egg.
Okay, so some people say that.
Gigantic olives.
Some people say that, right?
Yeah.
We have a book. I have a book in my house that's called the Book of Kazayat. It's where they show you the actual size, and they say this is a kazayat. Wow. Okay. So really,
that's the best. School they taught us that they were like bigger olives back.
Right. So you would say like an egg today, something like that, medium egg, whatever it's going to be. That doesn't help me if I don't know what a medium egg looks like. And from the medium, by the way, if you go to Martin's, it says medium and large and extra large. I really don't see the difference between the eggs.
Just a little bit.
So I know. Actually, the ones who would know is the Ballingers.
By weight.
So how much would a medium?
I don't know what the numbers are, but it's by weight.
Okay. Because the Belgians raise the chickens to raise the eggs. Okay, so now, one only recites. Okay, and so now let's keep going. So now it's a machloket between Rav Moshe Stern and his brother. They lived in 1914 to 1997, 98 respectively. Rav Moshe Stern focuses on the idea of the Tosefta, that it depends on what is considered normal. He suggests that since people consider ice cream to be more of a liquid than a solid, and that people ingest it in the way that people ingest drinks, is considered a food. Now, personally, Rav Moshe Stern, with all due respect, I've never seen anybody lick their drinks.
Maybe
If I'm eating ice cream off a cone, what you're doing is...
Yeah, but maybe you're melting it down in your mouth before you swallow it. So it becomes kind of...
Again, I've never seen anybody take a spoon. What?
I don't think I swallow ice cream whole.
No, that's the point. That's the point. So I'm not. You chew it down.
You mush it, make it liquidy.
I've never seen people do that. Okay, but he's holding that's more of a drink. His brother focused on Rashi's idea, and therefore distinguishes between ice creams and ices. Ices are primarily water, and therefore considered a drink. So if I have an ice, that's why I make a charcoal, and I go buy that amount. If ice cream, on the other hand, it has other ingredients, and it's not just frozen milk, therefore it must be considered a food. So according to Bezalel Stern, it goes by a different measure. Again, so for Bezalel Stern, I have to have a lot of ice cream to make an after bracha. I like him. For his brother, I have to have less ice cream. I don't know. I'd rather go for the brother. Reb Herschel Schachter writes that the consistency is not necessarily a factor. It's only considered a drink if it's a beverage. People ingest it because they are thirsty. If it's eaten as a food, even as if it's a liquid, it's considered a food. So why do I eat ice cream? Not because I'm thirsty, because I like ice cream. I'm not doing it to quench my thirst. I'm going to have a Coke to quench my... Well, actually, whoever drinks Coke to quench the thirst, it works against them, because of all the sugar it drives you up, and that's how they sell all the Coke. So if you really want to quench your thirst, have water.
What about like a power shake?
That would be a shake. A shake is a shake. It's liquid.
That you're eating, but you're doing it for a food supplement.
Oh. So Rav Shechter would say, if it's eaten as a food, if you have this, I don't know. Actually, I think a power shake he would still say is.
Or not a power shake, but a Slim Fast or whatever.
A Slim Fast bar?
No, a Slim Fast drink. They drink it for lunch or whatever.
Oh, okay, so it could be that he would say would have to be this. The only thing we're arguing, by the way, is the after bracha. Okay. How much you would have to drink. So if you're having a power drink in any case, you're having that whole thing, you're gonna have to make it after bracha, regardless of how you're doing it. Unless you're going to sip it. If you're going to sip it, which most people don't nurse their power drinks, most people drink it down, right? I've never seen anybody.
I'm not talking Powerade. I'm talking like.
No, I understand. Yeah. I've never seen anybody say, "Okay, I'm putting it down for an hour and drinking it." I don't think they do that. Okay. They're generally pushing it down. Unlike if you're going to have your somebody goes for what do they call when they in the operation when they look up your colonoscopy.
Oh, yeah.
So you have to drink that horrible stuff. There, I know one person who did it wrong. The person actually nursed the drink.
You're supposed to drink it fast.
You're supposed to drink it fast. And the person nursed the drink. Not that there was a bracha involved in that, but the problem is it didn't work. So after drinking that awful stuff...
You didn't get it down there fast enough.
Right, you have to drown it so it goes right through. But it works out sometimes to do it what halacha wants, yeah.
Okay, so you may not know this, but runners, they have these gel things. They're kind of like a gooey substance. What about that?
Is it food or is it...
Is it salt? But it's kind
of... It's a gel, you just go... there's not much to it.
Yeah.
Oh, so again, you'd have to make a bracha beforehand.
No, I'm asking, is it a liquid or a solid? What would you say?
It sounds like what you're describing a liquid. Okay. Sounds like we're describing a liquid. Okay.
You don't have to chew it up.
Right. So now, can I use snow for a mikveh? That was the eating part, okay? When it comes to eating snow, again, does it fall into this? Is it food? Is it Is it water? The only thing that's going to matter there is the after bracha. But now, let's say it's water. Let's go with that side of the picture. Can I use snow for a mikveh? For a mikveh, I have to have living water. That's what you have to know about a mikveh. Normally rainwater or a river, a natural spring, any one of those things would fulfill the law for mikveh. I cannot, on the other hand, take my hose, put it into to my pool, and fill it up and say that's a mikveh. That I cannot do.
So if snow came down, you're saying if you consider it a solid, can you put it in the mikveh because it'll melt and become
right?
Yes.
And is that considered drawn water, or is that considered real water?
Because it's already on the ground.
Right. So now it's going to melt. So, but I'll tell you something else. Let's say I had water in a bucket. Rainwater came into a bucket. You know, they used to fill up the rain buckets.
Right.
Okay, so now I need that rain. If I would take that bucket and pour it into the mikveh is no good.
Oh, really?
So
no good.
You have to collect it directly into it.
Right. So what happens is I break the barrel, break it, and that water runs in. That water's good already.
Oh, so there's ways to get around it.
There's ways to get around.
Because how else would you get the river water or whatever you're using into the mikveh?
Well, because it will flow in. If it flows in. First of all,
How do they get the water in the mikveh at...
It rained. It rained in.
Oh, they had the top open?
Yeah, on the
I'm
roof.
talking down the street here.
No, on the roof. Yeah. What happens is it collects on the roof. It goes in, and it's the pipe. It goes by itself through the pipe without any elbows. There can't be any elbow there, so it's just a straight pipe.
Oh, they have that built in there?
yeah. Every mikveh is built that way. So then the pipe goes straight, and it goes into the well. It fills up the well, and then for that well, then I let it go into the other cistern. Let me just finish. Then with that cistern, once that water's in, I can now put my hose in and fill the rest up.
But you can use the St. Joe River itself as a mikveh.
You could.
If
it's a natural river.
Even though it's dirty.
The answer is yes. I mean, if it's as long as it's a natural spring river. If it's man-made, no. I'm assuming it's a natural.
South Bend? Come on.
It's natural, right?
Yeah. Why are we called South Bend?
I always thought because we're in the southern part of the state, so you're looking at the wrong guy for that question.
It's because the
I know.
river bends south.
Right. When I was originally coming to South Bend, they said to me, "Where are you living?" I said, "I'm living in South Bend." They said, "Is North India?" I said, "No, it's Southern India. It's South Bend." They said, "No." Just shows that public schools do not teach you good geography. Okay. Anyway.
They weren't discussing South Bend.
No, certainly not there. Okay, so can I use it for the mikveh? So there's of course, Baruch Hashem, there's an argument about this. The Mishnah quotes an argument as to whether or not it can be used, and we follow the opinion that it may be used.
I have to say yes, otherwise they'd have to shut that.
No. The one you're missing something. You're missing something. Once I have to have approximately, it's 40 sa'ah, which if I remember right is, some people say it's 80 gallons. There's a major difference here. Some people say 80 gallons, some people say 200 gallons of water that has to be collected. So I forget where we fall in that. But once I have my well filled up with my call it a bore, it's a cistern. Once I have the cistern filled with that much water naturally, okay? So now all I have to do is let that water, and I'm translating it straight from the Hebrew, kiss the other water.
So then you can fill
Not kiss, keep it simple, stupid. Not that kiss, Jim, but kiss, as in they just have to touch, and that will make the next mikveh good. So if I have my well of 40 sa'ah, and then I have the empty well, I fill up the empty well with my hose water, and then I open it up so that they both kiss, and makes it magically, if you will, into mikveh water, and I can use that. Okay, so that's really how a mikveh would work. So that's why I can I empty out when I want to empty out and clean the mikveh, I just close off the other well. I close it, now I can empty it, clean it, and that's what they do in New York because you have so many people using it. Otherwise we get disgusting.
Right.
So what they do is they close it, empty it, clean it up.
A circulating filtration system, no? In mikvahs, no?
Some people would. Some people. There's problems with that too.
Ah.
If you wanted to get away from all the problems, you do. And Bangor, they used to empty it out every time. They used to empty it and fill it every time.
So it was not like a swimming pool filtration system.
No.
You just
No.
fill it up and that's it. Oh.
And then, like I said, you put the water in and so on. But after it has to kiss. So now, like I said, the main thing is to fill the well. So I have to get my 40 saw. So like I said, we rule that you can use snow. The question is how do you get the snow in there? Right? When it comes to rain, it has to flow in naturally. But can I take my shovel and shoot it in there? You say no. Watch what happens. Rabbeinu Asher writes that the chiddush, the nuance of the Mishnah is that one can even use snow that was collected in a bucket to fill the mikvah. I can basically shovel it in. If this were water, it would be considered drawn water, and the mikvah would be unfit. I can't do that. Like I said, if I have a full barrel of water or a bucket, I can't bucket and throw it in. I can't do that. It has to flow in naturally. I have to break the bucket, let it flow, and run.
Oh, so you can't, the top opening or the top of it, you can't pour it out of the opening that it came in. It has to come out of the bottom of it.
No, it can't come out the bottom. It has to break. It has to flow naturally. It has to flow naturally to get in.
If you had a spigot on the bottom of it.
You can't do that. It's drawn water.
Sounds like a good product we could come up with.
That's a drawn
If
water.
you break it, then it's flowing.
If it breaks,
it goes
wherever it goes. Nothing to do with me.
What if we perforate it so it breaks perfectly, falls down, makes almost like a slide for the water? These buckets.
Well, what you're doing,
all over the world.
I don't think we're going to buy it. Right? I don't think we're going to buy it. But you have to just remember that you have to have it on a tilt. Whatever you're going to do, you have to have it on a tilt so it flows in naturally. Okay, the Ravid is not as lenient though. He says making a mikvah out of snow. He writes that the majority of the mikvah must be filled with actual water, even after the snow melts. It doesn't count toward this majority. So that's what he holds. So you have that argument. The Mordechai also quotes an argument regarding tevila or in the snow. What's tevila? If I have my dishes. I bought new pots and pans. So can I, and I don't want to go to the mikvah. I have snow right in front of me. Beautiful. We had a beautiful snowstorm, 6 feet, 10 feet, whatever. If I'm Buffalo, New York.
And the Hebrew Day School closed for an hour.
There you go. Right. Good. I like that. So you have in Buffalo, they have 10 feet of snow. Can they take their pots and put it in the snow and fulfill their mitzvah of tefillah? Yes. Or better still, the woman doesn't want to go to the mikvah. Can she take a jump in the snow?
Whoa.
In the snow?
In the snow. She has to go in the water. Why not?
Whoa.
She doesn't want to go to the river. She doesn't want to do this. She'll
Cold.
jump in the snow. Very cold. No questions.
She cannot.
But is that
Wait, yes.
the water has to touch every part of the vessel, right? Or
Right. Salt. What's the problem? Pitter it.
Oh.
It's cold.
Yeah, but I mean, aren't there little air pockets in the crystal?
We don't worry about that.
Oh,
that you're not going to worry about. That you're not going to worry about. Okay, so here, Rabbeinu Simcha rules based on the Mishnah that one indeed can tumble in the snow. You have to have a lot of snow. By the way, all the snow connects. Let's understand something. All the snow is connecting. So if I have altogether approximately 200 gallons of water on the ground right now,
that counts.
That counts. It all counts together.
It's a mikvah.
Right. According to this opinion. That's how it's working.
Let's say you got a foot of snow on the ground. Can you lay there and then scoop the snow over you?
Yeah, but what about a grill? So a grill, you could just use the outside.
What's a grill?
A grill.
Yeah, go ahead.
A cooking utensil.
Okay, yeah.
A grill, you could just throw it in the snow.
And you mean to tovel it, to do tevila.
To make it kosher.
Yes. Yeah. Well, not to make it kosher, to make it spiritually kosher. In other words, you have to
make it okay for you to eat hot dogs.
No. It has to be kosher first. If it will be a brand new
brand new grill.
Boom, right in there, right. According to this, no problem. Would I do it? No, I would bring it to the mikveh at the HSA.
Right, you got it right outside your house, done.
If you didn't have a mikveh.
If you didn't have a mikveh, this would be what you do.
Wow.
Okay, so Rabbi Elazar rules. I just want to hear this stuff. Rabbi Elazar rules that the Mishnah does not permit tefillah in the snow, And the Mishnah is only dealing with the kashrut, the whether or not the mikvah is good after the snow melts. In other words, he's saying you can't just dip in the snow. It really has to be water. So you have to wait for the snow to melt. The problem is, by the way, when you have a foot of snow, how much water does that actually get you? About an inch, I think, right? It's not much water. Okay. So what? And therefore, one cannot. He was arguing what you argued. One cannot tovel in the snow because there's no way to immerse in the snow. I immerse in water. You were asking, can I cover myself with snow? Can I be buried in the snow? Okay. So that was where he was going with you. Rabbi Elazar was going with you. Now here is an interesting case that was asked to the Mordechai, and we're going to go through two parts of this. One is the craziness of the case, but then also the rabbinic response, can you beat your wife?
Oh.
That's right, you never thought we would get it from snow to beating your wife.
Wow.
There we go. It says, Seth, where are you? Okay.
Rabbi,
Says,
are you sure you want to do this on YouTube?
no, it's no problem. So it says extensively. Okay, so what's going on? Mordechai is dealing with a case where a husband forced his wife to tovel in the snow. It's time for her to go to the mikvah, so he forced her to go in the snow. Ostensibly, she didn't want to go to the mikvah, so he took matters into his own hands. Okay, he fought his mama's wife abuse here. So although the Mordechai doesn't address the pastoral component of this question, and that the rabbi who was asked this question should have reprimanded the husband for doing such a thing, there's no reason to assume the rabbi didn't deal with that aspect. Fine. And so the section of the Mordechai deals with the halachas dealing to snow and not to spouse, and not with spousal abuse. But for the record, he comes down like this. He said, I have found in the responses of Rabbi Simcha that the one who hits his wife, I have received that is more stringent than that from a person who hits his friend, because the friend, he's not commanded or he's not obligated to worry about his honor, unlike his wife. His wife, he is obligated to worry about her honor, and more than his body even. So the one who does this, in other words, one who beats or abuses his wife, should be put into excommunication, should be thrown out, should be whipped, should be punished in all these types of being pursuing him, even to chop off his hands if he's normal to do this.
Good.
That was the rabbinic response. Don't play with the rabbis. You want to hurt your wife? We're going to take you out. And it says if she wants a divorce, she can demand it, and he has to pay. He has to give the ketubah. He can't get out of it. Knows you're the husband that did the stupid thing. You put yourself into that situation. We're charging you. We're knassing you like crazy. And afterwards, he writes that he wants to. Afterwards, he writes that they want to put peace between them. So if the owner can change, as it were, fine. So that's fine, and they can go with that. But if he hits him again or embarrasses her, so then we agree that to put him basically again once into communication, and even to force him to give a get via the non-Jewish courts. So it's something we like to avoid, going to non-Jewish courts, but we will make him do that. So Mordechai came out very strongly that saying spousal abuse is totally against Jewish law, with the extent of saying you're basically, we'll knas you, throw into jail, do what you have to do. You're gonna divorce your wife and pay her totally. Yeah.
Well, if the woman hits the man and does the things to the man.
I was just going to ask.
Huh?
The man can divorce. The man can divorce his wife, no problem.
But does the wife get her hands cut off as well?
No, this is a continual thing. If he would continue to,
yes, but if she were to continue,
so he can get rid of her.
But would she also get her hand cut off, just like?
No.
No?
By the way, when it says we should cut her hand off. It wasn't literally. They didn't literally mean this. What they meant was it's using the language of the Torah.
You got a problem? You got a problem with a girl?
No. If I had a problem, I would have taken care of that a while ago.
Okay. This is on tape. Remember that. Okay,
Yeah,
be careful. No, but when it comes to the language like that to cut his hand off, it's more going with what the Torah says, that if a woman embarrasses her husband or does something, cut her hand off. What it means is you have to pay a bigger fine. We're not going to cut people's hands off, but it's the point is the amount of punishment that we're doing to this guy. So the same thing, if a woman is abusing her husband, so first of all, the husband should just give her a divorce, get it over with, and you don't have to pay the ketubah to get rid of her. 1, 2, 3. But it's the woman doesn't have that ability in Jewish law. Remember, she's the one who's at the disadvantage when it comes to divorce. Only the husband can give a divorce. So he thinks he has the upper hand, and in some cases he does. So what we do is we as a court force him to give it, and even if we have to go through the secular courts to enforce those laws, according to the Mordechai, we could. Okay?
Would a secular court enforce a halacha like that?
Yeah, well, they do actually. It's called the get law.
Yeah.
So until the 90s, there was a get law in New York. The only reason the get law was overturned was because of the reform movement, who went to the courts and said this is separation of church and state, and you should not be involved in that. So the courts actually, I think, uprooted
They don't follow it.
Yeah, because they didn't. I don't know. You'd have to ask the reform movement why they cared, but it made a big mess. They also tried to. There's a lot of things that they try to do, say separation of church and state, and you'd have to really ask the upper offices. I don't know what their reason was, but originally there was on the books that you could do that. But more than that, the rabbis, since we have the law of dina de malchuta dina, the law of the land is the law. If we can't handle it, because we can't enforce rulings, right? We can issue rulings, but we can't enforce them.
So they're going to get a secular divorce. Let's say that goes through.
No, they force them to give the secular. The court can, as part. In other words, if Reuven and Rivka, it's just Joe Smith and Jane Smith. Okay, if they want to get a divorce, right? So ask any lawyer. You can put anything in the divorce writ that you want. So in the divorce writ, the secular one, I can put in that you have to give a get. And so now if that's accepted, that goes through.
So that could be enforced.
That's enforced.
Not a special law.
100%. It's totally enforced because it's part of the contract. It's part of the divorce writ. You must give your wife a divorce.
That's the way to do it.
Right. Okay. So Shulchan Aruch follows Rabbeinu Asher over the opinion of the Ravid, and one may make a mikvah entirely out of snow as long as there is enough snow that when it melts there will be 40 sa'ah. So again, if I'm living in Buffalo or anywhere else where I can get some really good Chicago, I guess, would also have this lake effect snow. I could get rich off this stuff. Or I'm living in Canada.
So all of this is connected.
Yeah. Now again, it has to all fall into the mikvah. You have to get into the mikvah. Okay? The Ramah quotes the machlokas that Mordechai presents regarding Tefillin snow and follows the leading opinion. Maker Adin, however, he says from the major, according to the strict letter of the law, he writes that one should be stringent. And Rav Shaddai, in other words, you probably shouldn't do it, he would say. Rav Shaddai Cohen writes that one should be concerned for the opinion of the Rabbin, and he permitted making a mikvah totally out of snow. The Mishnah Brora, who he would rule by, writes that that if one is in a pressing situation, it is permissible to towel one's hands in the snow for washing our hands, as long as the snow covers one's hands. So this is interesting. I'm on the road. Let's say I'm on the road, and I want to have my sandwich.
You pull up on the rest
stop. I pull up on, no, forget the rest stop. I pull on the side, put my hands in the snow, say, I'll get back in my car, make a bracha, get in my back, shoot down the road. Okay, because it's there. Unlike, and I don't have to do anything with the gloves and all the mishigasim that we have. So that, if you could actually do that. Now finally, we come to another issue. Dealing with snow on Shabbat. What do we do on Shabbat? Is it muksa? Is it not muksa? Is it untouchable? So, one, is it muksa? So Tosfot suggests that the water from rain on Shabbat is the most stringent form of nolad. Nolad means it wasn't being born. That's what nolad means, being born. It wasn't there 2 seconds ago, and now it's there. We have a whole thing of muksa that if it wasn't there before and it is now here, we cannot use it. The example of that would be a chicken egg. When Charles's chicken gives birth, lays an egg, gives birth. When it lays an egg on Shabbat, he cannot take that egg on Shabbat. He can't touch it. It's over. He has to wait till after Shabbat. Okay, it's called nolad. That's really what it means. So now, what is rain? When rain is coming down, it wasn't there before. So now it fills up your rain barrel. You're not allowed to use that at all. So what is snow?
Wait a minute, you use it afterwards? Not at all.
No, you can't use it during Shabbos.
Just
After Shabbos, you can use everything. Nolad goes away once it's past Shabbos. Unless Shabbos runs into Chag. If Shabbos runs into Chag, then you have a problem again. But it's Tosfos, like I said, he suggests that that's the most stringent form, and because completely new entity, and therefore is muksa. Rav Yosef Ta'omim, the Pri Megadim, he codifies this as a matter of halacha. You cannot use it. The Braita states that it's prohibited to crush. So that's number one. If it snows, if it's that snow, it's just snow today on Shabbos, I can't touch it. Doesn't mean I can't walk on it. Doesn't mean I can't do anything. It means I can't pick it up and eat it. Okay. The Braita states that that is prohibited to crush snow on Shabbat, but one may place it in a cup to melt. This is interesting too, because my son came to me with a question. Apparently, he wanted to hit Daniel. So he said, "Hey, can I pick the snow up without making a snowball? Because I know I can't crush it." I like how everybody parses this out. Yeah. Can I just pick it up and throw it at him? And the answer I told him is muksa. Leave me alone. Get out of the way. But really, that would be the question. Am I allowed to pick up the snow and cast it at him? I can't make a snowball. Why can't I make it? Because I'm crushing it. I'm crushing it. So that's clearly you cannot do. It's because what you're doing is when I'm crushing it, I'm also causing it to melt. I'm causing it to melt because I'm pushing it together. When it's but if I put it into a cup to melt, that may be possible. So the Braita doesn't say anything about muksa, implying that it's even permissible to place snow that fell on Shabbat into a cup. So I can always put it into a cup. So to answer my son, yes, you could just pick it up like that, but not to throw it at somebody else.
What about an ice maker that's running on Shabbos? Dropping ice, like in the refrigerator?
I mean, it happens automatically.
Yeah.
I forget how they rule on that, but that would, it wasn't nolad, it was already there. I don't know how they would look at that. I think what they really rather you do is turn it off, but I'm not sure.
I'm not sure. Collect enough ice before Shabbos.
Right. Well, again, I'm not sure how that works. It's like, can you make ice on Shabbos? I forget.
Wow.
Yeah.
What if the snow fell before Shabbos?
That is not muksa.
Right.
But you can't crush it.
Okay.
You still can't crush it.
Yeah,
you can pick it up, you can do what you want, but they're certainly not muksa. Yeah.
Okay, so what happens if you take snow and you put it in your hand and let it melt, and then it gets
wet.
Wet enough so you can throw it, because when snow gets wet, it becomes more sustainable.
No, you can't throw it.
But you can't throw it.
Can't throw it. Leave me alone. Can't throw it because you're going to injure somebody. Leave me alone.
Oh, injure somebody.
Leave me alone. Okay.
I'll find a loophole.
Okay, no, I don't want a loophole. You can hurt somebody. Now, the Mishnah Berurah rules explicitly that if rain falls in Shabbat, the water is not muksa. So that's the Mishnah Berurah. He goes the other way. He says that if rain falls in Shabbat, the water is not muksa. So why? Because you say the water was always in the atmosphere. It just changed form. Fine. The same would apply to snow. This does not necessarily mean that one may make snowballs or snow characters. Okay, so be careful. Now, is it possible to cause snow to melt? We just quoted the Braita that one may not crush snow with one's hand, but one may place it in the cup to melt. Fine. So Rabbeinu Nisim writes that many Rishonim, many of the early rabbis, Rashi, Rambam, so on and so forth, are of the opinion that the issue is a form of squeezing, schita. And this is why it is only permitted to do it with one's hands. Yeah.
Can you make snowballs before Shabbos and then?
No. Okay. You can't throw snowballs at somebody. You're gonna hurt somebody. Okay. Mordechai writes that the issue is nolad or molded, and therefore it is prohibited to place something that will melt near a heat source. The permissibility to place ice in a cup is based on the fact that the snow melts into the liquid, and therefore there is no issue of nolad. Okay. And Rabbeinu Asher quotes the opinion of the Maharam that it's permissible to urinate in the snow because it's similar to walking in the snow. In other words, you're not melting it. That's what he would argue. He then quotes Rabbeinu Asher, who prohibited urinating because the urine will surely melt the snow. Why would you care about this, by the way? Think about it. You're walking on the way, you're on Shabbos, and you can't get to the bathroom on the normal day. So you find, as a guy, women don't do this, as a guy, so you find a wall, whatever the case is going to be. But if you're in snow, you can be melting something. So if I'm melting something, I'm causing, direct cause of melting, that would be forbidden according to this. So that's why you would not be able to, on Shabbos, to urinate in the snow. Yeah.
Is it also just
disgusting?
rude, disgusting?
I think you can also get a
In Hachinami, all those things are true, but all those things would be true. But in Europe, they didn't have these laws. And on top of that, you're right. You may be in the woods. You could be in the woods. It doesn't mean you're out. Hopefully, nobody's going to do this on Twickenham, but hopefully not. But it's nonetheless, we have to just know: can I or can I not do it? Okay.
Does the ground come into play?
What do you mean?
Wetting the ground?
You mean during the without on Shabbos? Just no, that would also be a problem. If you're doing that, so where could you do it? In other words, would I have to do it on the sidewalk? Would I have to do it in some other place? Right.
Well, we just discussed. You wouldn't want to do this on
Right.
the sidewalk.
Well, I'm just saying, would I do it in sand? Could I do it in sand
I mean, so
where there's
you're
nothing
out,
growing?
Let's say you're camping out for Shabbos, and you're in the woods, like you say. And where do you go?
Camping out in the wintertime?
No, anytime.
Well, no,
Anytime.
yeah.
So what they were telling,
I was, putting liquid on the ground. In other words, on Shabbos,
right?
watering the grass.
So again, if you find a place that is not where there's nothing growing, so that's what you would do.
Okay.
Campfire, whatever. Okay, so the machloka seems to be about whether melting snow is only an issue if one does directly. So Rav Moshe Stern discusses placing salt. Now this is also interesting. Placing salt on snow to melt it. Can I put salt on snow? You would say no, because they're melting, right?
Can't throw the salt.
What?
The act of
Yeah,
putting salt in.
no. In other words,
Okay.
I have
It's not work.
icy melt, whatever it's called.
Yeah, that's not considered work.
No, it's not considered work. No, I'm just spreading it. So he writes that.
You're creating water, though.
So he writes, good. So he writes that really is permissible. It's not similar to urinating in the snow because when one urinates, the melted snow is clearly visible. You see it going
Do
down.
you know you're going to have a bunch of kids here today?
Doesn't matter. Let them know.
Yeah.
But when one melted, halacha doesn't care about kids. Okay, and not like that. They should know. They're all bar mitzvah. Let them know. But when one melts with salt, the water and the snow mix together. And in that sense, is similar to placing snow in a cup of water. In other words, you're not going to notice it. So that's why me'ikar adin, from the straight law, it would be good. So now, this is a practical thing, by the way. You have an icy day on a Shabbos. Can I take that sand and put it on the snow so that people won't kill themselves? Absolutely, no problem. I didn't do anything. So if I can get, should I get icy melt versus sand? I don't know if that's necessary. All you really want to do is stop people from killing themselves. But but according to this, it should be able to do it. Again, this is not a halacha l'maaseh course. I'm not trying to say what we should do on Shabbos. I'm just trying to say what the arguments would be. And now finally, the last thing, the obligation to remove snow. We're not talking about Shabbos. We're talking about during the week. Okay? The Rambam writes that the mitzvah of ma'aka, to put a fence around your house. We have a rule that if I have a flat roof, that I have to put a railing around the roof. Why? Because if I don't, that's from the Torah. If I don't, somebody can fall off my roof. And what?
Why are they on your roof?
Because in Israel, that's where people walk. So they walk from roof to roof to roof. And if you go into New York, by the way, you have also the high-rise buildings. That's where they have their gardens and stuff. So you have to put what
Walk from roof to roof.
in Israel you could walk from roof to roof.
There
That
like
was all.
bridges between the roofs.
No, they were connected. That
It's
was
literally roof.
just connected.
one big building.
Like you see in the movies,
It's a
the
rope
cops chasing
swing.
the bad guy across the roof.
Right. So that's why they had to put up. Sorry, whatever. But no, in Israel, they at this time period. I'm not saying today. I'm saying in the old days, they literally could walk across. There was a whole argument about this because at Rishut Rabin, Rishut Yachid is there public property and so on and so forth. But they could walk the whole length. Yeah. So, but in any case, in most places you have like in New York, you have the flat roofs. So what they do is you go up there and you have your little picnics or whatever you're going to do because they have nowhere else to do it. So as a result of that, if you go to Yeshiva University, you'll see this. They have a fence around the roof. Every roof they have a fence. Because what happens if somebody goes up and doesn't wash themselves, they'll fall off the roof. Well, you don't want that because people will get hurt. Actually, they'll die. They could die. So we have a mitzvah to put a roof, to put a fence around our roof. Here we don't do it because all our roofs are not flat. But if we had a flat roof, you'd have to put up a fence or a wall of some sort. By the way, we follow this very much in.
You can have little castle turrets.
Say it again.
You can have little castle turrets. Like it's
Right. And that's why we have to put around my pool. I had to put a fence because otherwise people can fall in and get hurt. So that's why you have to do it. It's a halacha. Never mind from the state. It's just a halacha that we don't want people to get hurt. So the Rambam is saying that. He's saying, so that mitzvah of Malkah includes removing all potentially lethal obstacles from one's property, which could be a snow or ice or anything like that. The Sefer Chinuch adds that even if they are not potentially lethal, but can cause someone to get hurt, one must remove them. The Gemara states that a chassid, one who goes beyond the letter of the law, is someone who is very meticulous to make sure that nobody gets hurt because of them. Again, I'm putting these things up. The Torah states that there is a category of nezek called bor, pit. Nezek is damage. The damage called pit. And if one fails to cover the pit, one must pay for resulting damage. So here's a summary. He says, the Rambam writes that a hazard that can cause damage is a tolada, is a byproduct of the pit, and one is similarly responsible for those hazards. So if somebody slips on your snow in front of your property, besides the state charging you, the halacha would also say you're guilty. You had a question? Yeah.
So when it says you have to pay the resulting damage.
Say it again, please.
One is pay for the resulting damage. Is that
Right.
like getting sued or like religiously you're damaged somehow?
No, legally.
Oh, okay.
It's all illegal.
Like I broke my leg when I fell into the pit, and you have to.
We'd have to pay, right, you can sue the property owner, right.
Yeah.
So the Rambam writes that water can be a form of bor, even if it is absorbed into the ground. This becomes important when, let's say you're walking on the ground and something splashes up and ruins your clothes. So you just had it cleaned, you had to go to the dry cleaner again. Guess what? You're responsible as the homeowner. You're responsible. The Rambam writes that if one is responsible for a bore on one's property, even if he didn't dig it. So if it's the result of something natural or an animal caused it, one's still responsible. So a tree gets knocked down on my land, my tree or another tree gets knocked down on my land. I'm responsible if somebody kills himself on that and hurts himself on that tree. That's my responsibility. And finally, if one puts these ideas together, Josh Flug is holding, one could be held liable for not shoveling the snow on one's property. So it was a long way for Josh to get here, but bottom line is that we are responsible, halacha, again, not only according to self-bend rules of Mishagoyim, that we have to shovel everything, but even according to halacha, that if we don't do our due diligence in getting rid of the snow on our sidewalks or anything that's going to cause people damage, so then we are guilty according to halacha. So it's interesting. No, not on Shabbos.
Oh, yeah, I was just asking about Shabbos because it seemed like I heard something about you could keep your walk clean to your front door or something on Shabbos, but no.
No, no, you can't. You can't stop. You can't shovel on Shabbos. I mean, there's really no reason to, because
safety. Or in front of the shul, let's say.
No, and again, if there's really no reason to, because people got used to walking in snow. You put your gloves on, and if you put your boots on. And if you can't, there's no mitzvah. I know I shouldn't say this because it's a Torah center, and we like people to come on Shabbos. There's no mitzvah to kill yourself to make it to shul. Let's understand that. The mitzvah is to daven. I have to daven. I can daven in my house. So if it comes to a point where the weather is really frightful, okay, as the song goes, and is dangerous, stay home. Don't do me any favors. If you're not obligated to come to Minyan, that's for all the women out there. You're not obligated to come to Minyan. Don't torture yourself. The Kiddush isn't that good, no matter where you go. So you have to use your common sense, and that's why when it came to when it was freezing last year, when we had the polar vortex, or whatever they called it, Michigas, we had cold weather, and everybody got scared. So we weren't allowed to drive. The state became a nanny state. We weren't allowed to drive. And so we weren't going to walk to HOC. That's why we had a minyan here, had a minyan in the other house, and everybody had a minyan in their house. We wanted to be daven with a minyan, fine, daven with a minyan. But we all made our efforts to get there. But it's really, if we couldn't go, we couldn't go. It would have been that simple. So if it's on Shabbos and that's dangerous, stay home. You have my permission. Stay home. Don't shovel and say I was doing the shame mitzvah. No, we have a concept of mitzvah ababa avera. You have a mitzvah that's done because you did avera. I stole something. I'll give you 10% as tzedakah. Don't do me any favors. Don't steal and don't give me tzedakah. Do everything legal. So that's why you shouldn't shovel on Shabbos. Okay.